What we've been looking at is a trip to the moon. It's an illustration from a book by Jules Verne written in the last century, long before such a voyage through space was even conceived of as possible. Reality has more than once been foreshadowed by fiction. But here, just for example, is something that goes beyond, far beyond, anything we might ascribe to mere coincidence. In 1898, a little-known author named Morgan Robertson wrote this remarkable piece of fiction about a luxurious ocean liner, larger than any ship existing in its time, filled with wealthy passengers and a rich cargo. On its maiden voyage, this ship, labeled unsinkable, struck an iceberg one starry April night and sank in the cold waters of the North Atlantic. Now, 14 years after this book was published, a British shipping company, the White Star Line, built a vessel of almost exactly the same dimensions as those imagined by Robertson in his novel. It, too, boasted a list of wealthy and famous passengers and made the audacious claim of being unsinkable. And one starry night in the North Atlantic, one April night, April 14th, 1912, it struck a giant iceberg and vanished beneath the seas. Now, the similarities of size, speed, and fate are truly incredible. But the most startling parallel of all, Robertson named his fictional ship the Titan. Its real-life counterpart, as we all know, was the Titanic.
but dead ahead, sir.
When the Titanic went down, nations around the world were stunned. It became known as the worst maritime disaster in history. Millions of people lost confidence in technological progress. No other modern event has inspired such a steady and overwhelming flow of books and novels and poems and songs and movies. Lost in the depths of a dark and frozen sea, it's captivated the public imagination for decades. And now has inspired a daring team of scientists and explorers to launch an unprecedented expedition of historical discovery. At the renowned Explorers Club in New York City, this incredible expedition, more than 5 years in the planning, receives best wishes and words of wisdom from famed radio commentator Lowell Thomas.
And of course I told about the sinking of the Titanic, which was one of the major naval disasters of all time.
Expedition leader Michael Harris announces dramatic plans to search for and locate the great ship Titanic, and then to actually film the famous vessel as it lays in its watery grave more than 2 miles beneath the storm-tossed North Atlantic seas.
But we all intend to discover the Titanic. Why was it going through iceberg-infested waters
at 22.5 knots.
Search is being financed by Texas oil man Jack Grimm, a daring investor well known for backing adventurous and difficult expeditions.
And that's one of the answers that we hope to find when we reach the Titanic.
It's a big, dark ocean. The uncertainty, if you take
Technological and scientific activities will be coordinated by Dr. William Ryan from Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Geological Observatory.
Circle that radius, the difference of those positions, you have a real piece of real estate the size of Rhode Island.
And of course, where the Titanic is and what's left of it is a great mystery. And if Mike Harris and Mr. Grimm and their colleagues can solve that riddle, it will certainly be a magnificent thing to accomplish. And I'm sure that everyone connected with the Explorers Club is anxious to cooperate in some small way. And good luck to you, Mike, and good luck to you, Mr. Grimm, and so long until tomorrow.
On July 7th, 1980, a 39-member crew assembles at the Tracor Marine Shipyard at Port Everglades, Florida, in preparation for an historic voyage. Using the most advanced oceanographic equipment available, they will scour the ocean floor in an area 300 miles southeast of Cape Race, Newfoundland. Somewhere 13,000 feet below, in the dark, icy waters, they hope to locate and photograph the wreck of the unsinkable Titanic. Personnel and technological apparatus have been brought here from the farthest corners of the globe in an attempt to create the most effective professional research team possible. The prestigious Lamont Doherty Observatory will provide scientific and engineering support utilizing the most recent advancements in underwater technology, including sophisticated sonar, television, and navigation systems. For 6 weeks, members of the expedition team will live and work aboard the research vessel HJW Faye, constantly monitoring ultra-modern surveillance instruments. Signals will be processed with shipboard computers, generating two-dimensional images and magnetic profiles of the ocean floor.
Oh, good, Mark. Put it down. Move it down, Mark.
These profiles will then be deciphered and analyzed in the hope that they will reveal the outline of the Titanic's sunken hull and details of its massive superstructure. It will be the first step in a remarkable effort to unravel the many mysteries surrounding the greatest sea disaster of our century.
Okay.
Dr. Fred Spies, director of the Marine Physical Laboratory at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, will direct the complex underwater survey at sea. The expedition will actually be split into two phases, known as Titanic 80 and Titanic 81. The first phase, which the research team is about to embark on, will involve the difficult task of locating the Titanic and positively identifying it with photographic evidence. Once the ship is found, the research team will begin making plans to return the following summer for Phase 2, Titanic 81. In this second phase, the world's deepest diving aluminum submarine, the Illuminaut, will descend upon the wreck of the Titanic with an 8-man crew. There in the dark, bone-crushing depths, they will record on film the legendary Titanic. The skipper of the Illuminaut on that historic journey will be Captain Art Markell.
All this plastic has to be renewed.
Mm-hmm.
It has a life of about 10 years, and that's about all they know about it as far as its longevity. So I just pulled this viewport out, and this...
How heavy is that? Isn't that heavy?
It's pretty heavy, but it withstands the full sea pressure.
Right.
Sea pressure is on the outside. This is 19 3/4 inches, and what you're looking at from on the inside is 4 inches in diameter. See, it's binocular?
Right.
So your cameras are going to be up against it.
Yeah.
the pressure down there is so great that it'll actually compress this 12 inches of solid acrylic plastic?
That's right. This is going to move in at us as we go down.
How much? I mean, a quarter of an inch and a half an inch or what?
It'll move in about a little over a quarter of an inch.
With a cylindrical hull 6 inches thick, the 50-foot-long submarine has the capability of working at a depth of nearly 3 miles beneath the surface. It will explore the outer shell of the Titanic, recording the incredible sights with specially designed television and motion picture equipment. Then, 2 remote-controlled robots will be sent out to probe the great ship's interior with powerful lights and color television cameras. What they find may surprise and shock us, for at that great depth, the icy water contains little oxygen, a condition which could have preserved what is there in an eerie state of suspended animation. The Illuminaut's 2 manipulator arms, equipped with hard grips and tools to cut away entanglements, will carefully examine the wreck in detail, retrieving the items of special interest or value. But for now, the Illuminaut must wait, undergoing elaborate preparations to embark on its great adventure in the summer of 1981. Meanwhile, the crew readies the maze of unique equipment for the complex search operation that lies ahead. Each system and each component within that system must be thoroughly tested, put through its paces under the most extreme conditions to be sure it will function at the moment of truth. The camera sled is readied by the crew for a shakedown test. It will be towed behind the ship at varying depths, recording what it sees with a highly sensitive television camera and transmitting those images to monitors on board ship. Below decks, the technicians and scientists struggle with a mass of wires, tubes, and electronic gear as they hook up the enormous bank of computers and delicate navigational systems. Contact with orbiting communication satellites will be established early and maintained throughout the expedition to aid in pinpointing the exact location where the Titanic went down 70 years ago. The Sea Mark I, a prototype surveillance vehicle, has been specially designed by International Submarine Technology. This sensitive device, which the crew has nicknamed the Bluefish, will be navigated using acoustic beacons on the ocean floor. James Gonzalez from IST is the designer of this incredible equipment. He explains how it works to expedition backer Jack Grimm.
In there, and the other one's sitting right on the tripod. Plant right here, and pick up the whole plant. Take the whole shot.
Al Hagen of Lamont Doherty proves to be an indispensable member of the expedition, employing his wide variety of skills to help keep each phase of the operation at peak efficiency.
Danny's calling now.
After days of preparation, the multitude of computer interconnections are nearly completed and ready to be made operational.
No, it shouldn't be. What do you on? No, the 1 kilometer. 1 kilometer, okay.
The technicians cross their fingers hopefully as the last few systems are hooked together.
1 second rep rate. Yes, affirmative. Okay, starboard. Okay, starboard side scan. I love it. Try the one in the back, the sub-bottom.
Yeah.
I'm sure glad we're only using 1/3 power. Can you hear the starboard also?
Because that thing will... It's the wrong pattern, right? Something will be missing and then the Titanic will be in the area that's not there?
Not exactly that it's missing, but you don't know where the beam's hitting the ground.
Yeah.
It doesn't make the same kind of an image.
It's got to be completely parallel with the deck.
Right, but you'd like it to be.
Yeah. Oh, man.
You
did it.
Really? We did it.
We did it, yeah. Takes a big teamwork, huh?
That's right. Everybody in our plant spent a lot of very long, hard hours on this thing.
How many hours?
We're very excited.
How many months?
It's, well, about 3 months we've been building. That's a project that usually would take about a year.
We got it done in 3 months, right?
We really did.
But after we're finished with the Titanic, we can use it all over the world.
Hopefully.
All right.
When the elaborate electronic apparatus is finally switched on, surprisingly, everything works. Normally skeptical, the scientists are delighted and amazed.
Pardon me?
It's pinging, everything's going all right.
Here's the deal. Okay.
Can you give us a shout at the outgoing pulse?
Sync. Got it?
Oh, nice audio.
I'm trying to phase up that recorder. Okay.
It's decided at the last minute that the expedition's good luck mascot, Titan, will have to remain behind. It's feared by some that he might become ill on the stormy and rough Atlantic seas.
Here, look. Shake hands with Mike. Smile now. Smile. Smile for the camera. Good. Girl. What? What was that again? What? Good girl.
Give Shilling.
What do you want to do?
Hey, meet Dale. Titan, meet Dale Chase. Say hello to Dale.
Hello?
All right.
Hello. He's a nice guy, she says. She says he's a nice guy.
With all gear and personnel loaded on board and the technical equipment fully operational, HJW Fay makes preparations to sail.
Okay, Chief, we're all set to go.
It's the beginning of an unprecedented and ironic voyage into history. 39 men, aided by the most advanced technology that science has available, setting out to unlock the mysteries of a glorious old ocean liner once thought to be indestructible. On that chaotic and terrible night in April of 1912, a dream was suddenly transformed into a nightmare. Overconfidence and arrogant pride were swallowed up by the relentless dark sea. And now, in the quiet and solemn heat of the Florida night, everyone aboard the research vessel Fay is careful not to whisper any claims of being unsinkable.
Have a good trip. Relax. Don't hit any icebergs.
Thanks.
Steady.
The Titanic was a floating city, condensed into a neatly defined class structure. While the wealthy and famous dined and danced the evening away in palatial luxury, many of the steerage passengers huddled in their cramped quarters, excitedly making plans for their new life in America. One of these immigrants was only 9 years old on that historic night. Now, nearly 70 years later, Frank Goldsmith still remembers.
And we had to get up onto the boat deck and walk forward slowly, of course, because they were filling those lifeboats. And then when they'd get one filled, we'd have to move forward a little bit more until finally we reached the very front part of the ship, right near this funnel. And there was Mother and I saw a line of men with our arms locked together. We got in between this line and slowly walked forward until we reached the edge of the boat, and then we were helped into this lifeboat, Collapsible D. I shortly began to cry, and Mother put her arms around my neck and forced my head into her breast, because A moment before that, an explosion had occurred when the ice water reached the final boiler room. That was the one that was producing the electricity aboard the ship.
Aboard the cable ship McCabe Bennett, and on April 17th, she steamed away from Halifax, Nova Scotia in search of bodies. Hundreds were recovered from the freezing water, many mutilated beyond recognition. The crew of the McCabe Bennett took up a collection to bury one helpless victim, a 3-year-old child, unidentified and unclaimed. Bruce Ismay, president of the White Star Line, sailed on the Titanic on its maiden voyage. 5 years earlier, he had conceived the idea of building an incredible luxury liner that would be unsinkable. Now, despite the law of the sea that women and children be rescued first, Bruce Ismay survived disaster, mysteriously replacing an assigned crew member in Lifeboat C. Of the bodies recovered and returned to Halifax, 154 were unclaimed and eventually buried in 3 cemeteries. One of those was a crewman named Ernest Freeman. Strangely and without explanation, a grave marker was paid for and dedicated to Freeman by Bruce Ismay. Could this be the seaman who gave up his place in the lifeboat to Ismay? And if so, did he relinquish it willingly? The tragedy that night is far behind us now, and the crew of the HJW Faye, enticed by the adventure of discovery, has but one goal in mind: to find the Titanic.
We're gonna find the Titanic in a cold and lonely grave. Yeah, we'll find the Titanic with her cowards and her brave. We've all been told the story of the tragedy and glory of that great ship Titanic at the bottom of the sea.
The target, there's a ship called the Briggs that's on the bottom out there in fairly open terrain, and so we'll spend ourselves probably 24 hours, if the gear works well, towing back and forth in that area. Once we've done that, we'll pull the acoustic fish back up. It'll take us probably a few hours to get shifted over to the camera fish, and then we'll put the camera vehicle in. That we will use not on this target, because none of us want to hang it up and lose it, except maybe in the Titanic. So we'll put that in a couple of miles away from this target and get ourselves some bottom photography and pull that back up. Once that's done, presuming everything is done well, we'll secure and head on into Bermuda.
Off the coast of Florida, the crew makes preparations to test the bluefish and calibrate the sensitive instruments under deep water conditions. To help out, the U.S. Navy has given the expedition permission to conduct a trial run using the wreck of an old sunken Navy freighter called the Briggs. The system will be lowered into the water in the general vicinity of the wreck and then towed across the area, covering a path 5 kilometers wide. When the Briggs is finally located, actual distances will be cross-checked against those indicated on the bluefish instruments in order to verify the accuracy of the sonar signals. Trial run is essential to ensure that precise readings will be obtained during the actual search for the Titanic's location.
Topside's up. Are all the pulse lengths down?
Pulse lengths 0.
Okay. Transmitter's off. Okay, power it up then. Let's go.
Okay, power up.
Tension runs through the crew during this first equipment test. If everything goes smoothly without any serious hitches, they will consider it a good omen. But a malfunction could cast a shadow over the expedition.
To 040 degrees, please.
Roger, coming left to 040.
Roger.
4 strategically placed television cameras constantly monitor all phases of shipboard activity. Below decks in the command center, science team leaders can closely watch the progress of each simultaneous step and make instant changes and decisions. But for now, the atmosphere is casual and relaxed. The Bluefish will take nearly 2.5 hours to descend 10,000 feet the ocean floor.
Asparagus with my own hollandaise sauce, which is uniquely different than anybody else in the pepper I use. Baked potato with sour cream and chives, mixed vegetables, a tossed green salad with, believe it or not, on a boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, garden fresh vegetables. And I'll tell you, you can't beat a dinner like that. The bill of fare on this boat is very, very similar to the Titanic. Oh boy, these people are going to eat good tonight. I tell you, I'm the Muhammad Ali of the cooking world. There's nobody can cook better or faster than I can. Yes, sir. Let me get these vegetables off. Lobster will be out in 8 minutes. 8 minutes for lobster time. Oh, what beautiful vegetables we have here. Tell you, when I sign up on this boat, I spent a half a day looking for the swimming pool. We ain't got no swimming pool on this boat. Nothing. Tell you, I can see how they felt 300 years ago when they had a high turnover rate of galley slaves, because there must be at least 100, 110 degrees down here. You don't see me breaking a sweat. I don't break a sweat. No, I don't. Come on, boys. Let's get some dinner here. Come on up now. Don't be bashful. Let's go. We're having lobster tonight. Baked potatoes. Vegetables, salad. Help yourself to some large fresh salad now. How you doing tonight, Hank? Good. How about you? Fine. Just fine. Delicious meal. It's like every night on board, you know. That's right. You got the best type of people on board. You might as well feed them the best. Guys, come on up. Be fast. Come on, get on that. I don't think there's anything there. Okay.
Then, as darkness falls, the first crisis of the expedition occurs. The side-scan sonar unit fails and must be raised to the surface. Jim Corsalis is worried that water has somehow leaked into the tightly sealed unit, damaging the extremely delicate circuits inside. Initial examination of the Bluefish reveals no sign of external damage. It's then carefully moved to a well-lighted work area where it can be studied more thoroughly.
If there's any water in it, there's not much. Wait a second, you'll always have a little bit around that. Yeah, I know. It's okay, isn't it? It's okay. Yeah, you always have a little bit of water. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. No water, soil. Well, that's good news. Now we got to find the ground ball.
have got it in here now.
All right. What's the good news?
The good news is that there's no water there.
No water. Why would it lose power?
No idea. We'll have to look for that. But I'd much rather have it lose power for an unknown reason than lose power because it was full of water. So, that's the good news.
All right, I'll take it.
You want to? Okay. All right, go ahead. Well, I'll take it.
The side scan problem proves to be more serious than first expected, requiring several days of intricate repairs in Bermuda. On the way there, tests will be conducted on a specially designed camera sled. The sled is actually a triangular-shaped metal housing that contains high-resolution video cameras. When lowered beneath the seas, it will transmit television images to monitors aboard ship. This will enable the scientists to study geological formations and topographical contours on the ocean floor. Once the location of the Titanic has been pinpointed, the sled will descend on the wreck, and for the first time, man will see the haunting vision of his own boastful miscalculation. A luxury liner, so perfect that it was deemed indestructible, now resting beneath almost 3 miles of icy water. Video cameras are firmly secured in watertight cases and locked into position. Lightweight panels are then attached to the triangular frame to prevent the camera sled from getting hung up on the wreck. This protective measure will prove extremely valuable when working around the Titanic itself, for if the camera sled became caught on protruding metal, the long cable to the surface could snap, sending 12,000 feet of heavy cable spiraling down over the ship like a mass of tangled spaghetti. If that occurred, it would be far too dangerous for the Illuminaut to navigate around the Titanic during Phase 2 operations in 1981. As the camera system drops below the surface, scientists and expedition team members watch the progress on a bank of television monitors. Everything the camera sees will also be recorded on videotape for review again at a later time. For the first tense moments of deployment, the camera sled operates normally, moving through the water at a steady pace.
What's the overall opinion of the test that we've been having? TV looks good?
TV looks very good. We haven't, certainly had thought we'd have to work a lot harder to make some sacrifices to get that TV to work, and it's really come through very nicely. Yeah, super.
You like this real-time TV? And you can see what's happening, but is that...
Well, I think that's going to be very useful when we put it down in the vicinity of the wreck, because we'll be able to have immediate feedback. And
strange shape moves across the video camera's lens, practically blocking it. At first, it's thought to be a large shark, investigating the odd contraption that has dropped into his world.
The weird thing we're seeing here is the panels that have fallen off. What's caused that, Bill?
Well, we overlooked the...
According to Dr. Ryan, the force of underwater currents has torn the panels off the camera sled frame. Designers of the system have failed to accurately take into account the enormous stress factor created at extreme depths. The camera sled is hauled to the surface with 2 of the 3 panels dangling from the bottom. Although faced with the immediate disappointment of yet another disrupted trial run, the crew is elated to discover that the photographic and video gear is still intact and fully operable. In celebration of the successful video run by the camera sled, the ship's colorful chef, Al Kaplan, has baked a cake. But one very important part is missing.
I want to ask you one question.
Yes.
The Titanic had 4 stacks. Where's the 4th stack?
Oh, gee. You know, that's been the story of my life. I've always been missing the stacks.
Okay, all right.
It's Chef Kaplan's first time at sea, so Mike Harris and the film crew decide to help him experience rollicking initiation.
I'll tell you what happened, all right?
Now you've got your sea legs.
What happened to you?
Well,
What are you doing all wet?
no, I don't know. I just took a shower right there.
What are you doing? What's the matter with
The
you?
only pair of clothes I own. Boy, I'll tell you what happened. Don't throw any more water on me. About 3:30 in the afternoon, the bosun wakes me up and he tells me, you better secure that galley because it's getting rough.
Yeah.
I've heard seamen and people talk about rough weather, and I haven't seen it. I have my sea legs. I don't want any more sea legs.
Some more rough weather.
So anyways, I go, I tie everything down, Mike.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I'm cooking dinner,
It is
and
cooking.
we're rolling, and everything was all right.
Slow ahead, too. Pilot's aboard.
Man, you won't need to move it. Just have right tied up in the center portion there in the
The Faye sails into Bermuda, its final stop before proceeding to its destination in the North Atlantic. There, the remaining members of the scientific team will board and additional equipment will be carefully stowed. With spare parts more readily available, plans are made to continue repairs on the side scan sonar. Entering the harbor, they pass the Navy research submarine Alvin, which was recovered by the Illuminaut in the deepest recorded salvage to date. As the Faye pulls into port, financial backer Jack Grimm is greeted by his wife, Jackie, and other supporters of the expedition. The excitement generated by this historic venture is reflected in the faces of those who've come to meet the ship.
If there's a big target out there, well, you get a very strong echo back, and that will make a very black mark on the page.
Dr. Fred Speets explains operation of the Bluefish to J. Lewis Reynolds, chairman of the board of Reynolds International and developer of the deep submersible Illuminaut. With them are Marvin Steffens and Alton Howard of International Expeditions.
Out at the extreme range, even, we should
Still
get
show up
a
there.
fair number of pulses as we go along on a target of that size. So we'll gradually paint ourselves a picture, and I think the general plan we have is to primarily to navigate with Loran C while we're doing that part of the survey, because we can make fairly long, more or less straight lines.
Okay, transmit off.
Transmits are on.
Okay, is the telemetry going to come up?
Power coming on. Power up. Here we go.
And here she comes on the scope.
Ready?
Yeah. Ready. Start transmitting.
Wait for starboard side scan on it.
As members of the science team labor to repair the side-scan sonar, one of the most vital pieces of equipment on the expedition, the remainder of the crew welcomes the opportunity to enjoy a few days of recreation in this tropical paradise.
Bermuda is another world, 700 miles at sea. Just a
Look at that beautiful beach.
It's like a friendly melody to touch and fly in the morning, to listen to a honeybee, to hear a bird who sings a song, just to say that he is free. Bermuda is another world. Turn around, I'll tell you all. Just to watch a morning sunrise from the sea up to the sky, to look across on the harbor and see a multicolored sail, to water ski on the water that always leaves a snowy trail. Bermuda is another world. Turn around and you'll be gone, but there'll always be a memory that will linger on and on.
Stop for it.
Stop your port engine.
And then someday I'll hear you say,
Half ahead, too.
just as I have said today, Bermuda is another
The research vessel Faye departed Bermuda on July 26 and set course for the North Atlantic, according to the coordinates given by the Titanic's last SOS. The luxury liner was sinking somewhere in this area, more than 300 miles south of Newfoundland and east of Nova Scotia. Now, it'll take nearly 3.5 days to reach the site. Time for each person to reflect on the great adventure ahead.
We've got 890 miles to go, and the course is 052, and we're going to have a nice, smooth ride to get there.
No waves
No
or anything,
waves,
right? Just as
absolutely
smooth as can
perfect
be.
weather. We don't go to sea on this ship in anything except good
We
weather.
ought to get there Wednesday morning, I think, right?
6, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Let's go get her.
Very good, sir.
We're gonna find the Titanic in her cold and lonely grave. Yes, we'll find the Titanic with the cowards and the brave. We've all been told the story of the tragedy and glory of that great ship Titanic at the bottom of the sea.
Norm, why did you decide you wanted to captain the Faye to go find the Titanic?
Well, the regular captain wasn't available, and I knew the ship. I know the ship as well as anybody, so I figured I'd better take it myself.
You don't care anything at all about actually being here to find the Titanic?
Maybe a little bit.
Hold it. How did a limey like you get involved in trying to find the Titanic?
Bill Stevenson, author of the book on the Titanic expedition.
Curiously, my grandfather was captain of the last of the China clippers, and he just got into telegraphy. And when I was a very small kid, he used to tell me about the Titanic as a lesson. He was a Scots Bible thumper. And he said, my boy, never get arrogant, because the Titanic taught all of us a severe lesson. And it's been in my head ever since. It's part of legend. And I thought I'd like to come along and do a book on the discovery of the Titanic.
I've got rheumatic fever
on a dive in Greenland. 52. They figured they couldn't use me anymore after that, so they sent me home. I spent 7 months in Spain about 2 years ago, and I had to come home for personal reasons.
Did you hear anything about finding the Titanic, or is it just another job to you?
Oh, well, it's a job, but I hope that we do find it. It's a lot of expense and time and effort gone into it. I hope it's a successful trip.
Adam, what is your part in this expedition?
I'm given the title of magnetometer expert on this program. My previous experience
Stevenson interviews Dr. Alan Heron,
primarily
scientist from Lamont Doherty, about her involvement in the project.
and the nature of the seafloor by using the magnetic field, the Earth's magnetic field.
How important to the success of this expedition is magnetometry?
It's a very important test to confirm that any object that looks very suspiciously like the Titanic is indeed a metal ship.
I'm surprised to see a lady on board a ship of this sort. Do you often go on expeditions like this?
Not too often, but I've been out, maybe 4 months. My family doesn't really like to see me go off, but I have gone off a couple of times before, but on very different kind of expeditions.
When you say family, you have children, a family of your own?
Husband and 2 boys.
Really? What do you say to the boys when you take off on a trip like this? I'm going to find the Titanic?
Yeah, they're thrilled. Oh, they think it's great, marvelous. Go around the neighborhood.
Now this represents a 2-kilometer range scale. When we go to 5 kilometer, the gain will go up commensurately higher. Do I turn it the right way? Let's see. Up to 5? Sure enough. There we go. Now I'll cut down another factor of 10. You can see that this takes 4 seconds now. We transmit, we turn up the gain for 4 seconds, and then transmit again.
So the signal goes all the way out, 2.5 kilometers.
Right.
It takes 4 seconds to go all the way out and come back.
That's right.
2.5 kilometers. So we're actually covering 5-kilometer width.
That's right. About 2.5 kilometers on each side of the towfish.
And this is unique, right? I mean, there isn't any other system like it in the world that has this type of a range.
No, that's right. All other commercially available systems run something on the order of 500 meters to 1,000 meters for their total swath capability.
So we'll be able to search a larger area and we'll take less time to find the Titanic, hopefully.
That's
right.
the
whole name of the game.
That's the idea.
You're a girl, you're only 18 years old. Are you...
Renata Gallagher, 18-year-old student from Columbia University, talks with Arthur Stevenson about her duties on board the expedition research ship.
What are you going to do here on the ship?
Well, up till we get to the Titanic site, I'll be standing watches and generally helping around with anything that has to be done. And once we reach the site, I'll be working with Michael Rawson, taking the data that comes in and processing and making a map of where we are and the features that are on the ocean bottom.
People ask me, why do I lead expeditions around the world? I don't know. There's no easy answer. I guess I like to go places other people haven't been, see things other people haven't seen. I know it's the adventure, but most of all, I guess it's the romance. I love the romance.
Sometimes I think I'll never see what I've seen in my mind, and the things that I've been looking for I will never find. Then something down inside my soul takes a hold of me. It's a dream I hope I'll always see. Romance is what moves me, taking a chance instead of passing it by. romance is my life.
Place at which the Titanic thought it was at the time it sent out its SOS signal is right here at this spot we've labeled Site 1.
Let's put it, we got one
some kind of a marker on there. She was headed in this way, ran into the ice pack that was about in here somewhere. The next nearest ship was the Californian, which was headed in pretty much the same direction and was ahead of Titanic. When she got to the ice along about 10 o'clock at night, her company policy was that they would stop and just wait it out. And so she stopped, and it was while she was stopped that Titanic came in and hit the ice. Yeah. Some people think that people on the Titanic could see the Californian, in which case one of these two positions is in error because they're too far apart for that in any realistic way. So the Titanic could conceivably have been up as far north as here if the Californian's position was right.
Or if in fact we find the Titanic here where she thought she was, then in fact the Californian has to be down here.
Either that or it exonerates Captain.
As the ship nears the vast ocean area southeast of Cape Race, Newfoundland, optimistic crew members and hopeful scientists form a lottery to guess the exact latitude and longitude where the Titanic will be found.
Okay, this is the Cuban know-how now. Got all the scientists here, but when it's a matter of the numbers, that's my bag. Here we
Only
go.
4. Hey, wait a minute.
Wait.
I heard about you kind of guys.
We got to bounce it here, you know.
Hey, you can't pull any out of your pocket now. You got 4 there? Let me see those 4 right there. Put them down. Put them down.
So, yeah, it sounds like a Keno game in Vegas.
Approaching the site historically considered to be the location of the Titanic's last coordinates, the researchers launch a series of 3 transponders. They are dropped into the ocean at 5-mile intervals in a triangular pattern around the site. Once in position on the ocean floor, the transponders will serve as constant reference points for the search operation. As signals are sent out from the ship at regular intervals and then bounce back. This will allow the scientists to pinpoint precise locations of objects thought to be the Titanic.
Lower this slowly. Lower this slowly.
Now, watch your sink.
There she goes.
Let's hope this is not another disaster at sea. My God, being attacked by a shark. Hey, a fish is nibbling at the line. That's what's wrong. It's sinking. There it goes. Goodbye. Down it goes. Now, this is the final. One more success.
As we came into the area, we headed north. The terrain was fairly smooth, and then we came across the Shark Canyon that marked the southern part of the area, and continued to steam north. You can see that the topography is somewhat rough, and at this point we began launching a transponder. You can see the signal calling the transponder is this mark along in here. The transponder is now on its way down, and we'll have our first really fixed reference point in the area based on that transponder.
In this animation, a signal is sent out by the ship's echo sounder and then bounced back by the transponders. A device towed out of the ship interprets the returning signal and then transmits the information to computers on board for analysis by the scientific team. Next, the crew launches the repaired bluefish. A large yellow fin has been attached to the top with a magnetometer secured to the center. This device will measure fluctuations in the Earth's magnetic field and pinpoint any unusual large metallic objects.
Rich, this is the lab. Will you come right to course 245?
Roger that. Come right to 245.
Give me port ahead 150 RPM, 150 RPM.
Port engine ahead 150 RPM.
We can see side scan signal all the way out, right out to 4 seconds on the port side and starboard side. And this is the sub-bottom 4.5 kilohertz that looks down. And this little blip right in here is the bottom. And Bob's been flying just a little under half a second.
Initial data indicates that the ocean bottom is hard. That's good news for the research team. There had been a worry that the Titanic might be covered by thick silt or buried in deep mud.
So there appears to be no penetration. If we were in a place where the bottom was as soft and soupy as we've been led to believe, we ought to see more penetration than that.
So you think it's a nice hard bottom?
Yeah.
The Titanic should be sitting on the bottom and not sunk down in silt and mud and that sort of thing.
Yeah, acoustically it's a hard bottom.
The side-scan sonar on the bluefish emits a pulse that literally paints a computerized two-dimensional acoustic image of the ocean floor. Coupled with the magnetic profiles created by the magnetometer readings, the images can easily detect the outlines of an object as large as the Titanic's sunken hull, and even reveal details of the superstructure. Scientists will use this information to piece together a mosaic composite of the wreck, verifying that it is indeed the Titanic.
Transponders, the fish right now is interrogating them and we're getting replies. We've passed this one a while back. In fact, we just have passed this. The ship is located here. In about another half hour, at about 8:30, we should be passing the historical site of the Titanic with the fish. And in fact, we will cover the actual location of where it may have gone down during that time. That might be pretty exciting.
Yeah, and then the plan will be, of course, if we don't find it, then we'll go on up here another 3 miles, turn back and make a heading and come back and cover it on another time, right?
We'll cover it another time. We'll overlap our beams each time so we make sure that we're not missing any particular part.
Reg, this is the lab. Will you give me a heading of 270?
Roger, this is the bridge. Come left to 270.
How's it look, Mike?
Right now we're going through the area that historically has been recognized as the final resting place of the Titanic. And on our particular course, with the side scan going out to the right and to the left, we would expect to find it to the left of the course, somewhere in here. So that's why we're all here sitting with bated breath, seeing if anything comes up on the side scan. And talking with Dr. Spies a few minutes ago, this particular object is about the right size of the Titanic, and you would hope to find something of a shadow area on one side of it. But on the other hand, there's obviously geological formations here, so there's no definitive thing. We're going to go on up this track for about 3 more miles, turn around and come back, and then we'll look at this particular site again. So it's exciting. I don't know if we'll find anything, but we'll prove or disprove where people said the Titanic came to rest.
So this is just about exactly where it should be.
That is historically where it supposedly sunk. So
exciting.
We're finding out if that's true or not. So far, it seems to not be true. But there's some interesting things, so we're watching, finding out what it looks like.
I have the feeling that's it, though. I have the feeling that's it.
Yeah, but everybody wants it to be it.
There's one of the stacks right there. There's the second. Sure. And there's the third stack right there. Right. Now, if you'd really like me to go further.
No, please stop here.
No, it's, I don't know. With all of this here, it's very hard to pick that kind of stuff out. You can let your mind do a lot.
Next
lot
pass
for
on
you,
a 1 kilometer scale. We'll see it.
That's beautiful.
We are finishing the northern.
The research team has searched for 4 days and covered more than 300 miles of the ocean floor. But still, nothing is found. As the search area widens, hope for an immediate discovery begins to dim.
40 miles an hour. And we've taken a track down here into the wind.
Pointing because the compass is completely...
Then, another crisis. The magnetometer begins to behave erratically, providing signals that are strangely inconsistent. It's feared that powerful currents in the deep reaches of the ocean are playing havoc with the stability of the bluefish, ravaging the large tailfin.
They're very erratic. They're very erratic. The vertical field used to be at something on the order of 46,000 gammas or something like that. Well, it's cycling down to 20,000.
So what, the side scan seems to be working, but you think it's a problem in the magnetometer?
All the acoustic stuff seems to be working right fine.
The reason we may have to bring it up because of that is that since the magnetometer sits in the tail, if what has happened is that one of the guy wires on the tail or something is broken, then the vehicle may not be towing proper along the track. And if the vehicle turns around and decides to go sideways, which a vehicle like that could, if it had no drag in the after end, then the side scan would be a fore and aft scan, and we wouldn't have our 6 kilometers worth of sweep width.
All the electronic systems appear to be working very well. Okay, they're responding to the telemetry. I can change transmits. I can cycle the system through its various paces, but the magnetometer is giving spurious readings, almost as if the magnetometer itself is moving around.
Well, it's right back there by the hydrophone. It's making the noises, so it's logical that if it was rattling, the hydrophone would pick it up, bouncing against the stern of the vehicle.
That's true. That's true. If anything has come loose associated with the magnetometer, it would explain both symptoms that we're seeing.
So without stability, there's no point in pursuing the survey. We'll bring her up and fix the tail.
I think that's a good idea.
The cause of abnormal magnetic readings can be seen at first glance. The entire tail section, housing
Put it down! Put it down!
military plane is observed by the crew on the Faye, mysteriously making low-altitude runs across the search area. During one overhead approach, the plane releases a series of metal canisters into the water. These are later determined to be submarine tracking devices. But why is a military aircraft conducting such tight surveillance on a well-publicized research expedition? The answer becomes clear when a Russian submarine is suddenly spotted running parallel patterns to the Faye.
Bridge, I'd like the bow thruster port at 100 amps, please.
That's the bridge, bow thruster to the port, 100 amps, roger that.
The Russian sub stays in constant close range for several days, obviously watching expedition activities, but never making radio contact or offering an explanation of her interest. What possible concern could the crew of a Russian submarine have for a group of scientists and adventurers in search of a sunken ocean liner? Was it the fascination of imminent historical discovery that lured them to this area of the vast ocean, or was there some other, more questionable motive? While the entire world waited for the word of success, the Russians hung on tenaciously down there like an underwater detective shadowing a suspect.
I think it is. I don't know. I think it's going over to this. Yeah, that's part of that package there. Yeah,
right. A new stabilizer fin, minus a magnetometer, is attached to the bluefish, and little time is lost getting it back into the water. Those on the Faye are determined that neither bad weather nor a persistent Russian sub will deter them from discovering the Titanic.
No way, baby. It's connected pretty good.
That could measure the magnetic field on 3 axes.
The magnetometer has been irretrievably lost, but not scientific ingenuity. Jim Corsalis and Bob Bookbinder gather a mishmash of spare parts ranging from discarded wire to a plastic shampoo bottle and cleverly fashion them into a simple but workable magnetometer.
And
our supply of wire is minimal.
Took apart an old motor to get some wire and some current transformers. We hope to use these coils as the basis of the magnetometer. Inside here goes a small plastic bottle of water. You use distilled water in here and measure the precession frequency of protons around the Earth's field. There's an amplifier we've cobbled together on this circuit board with a circuit that alternately polarizes and depolarizes the field coils. So we're about to test this thing, and hopefully this afternoon we can put it in the water and see how well it works.
record should be almost pure white on the back side of this. You see some small patches of shadow.
A new image is picked up on the scanning equipment, and initially it appears to be the size and shape of a large vessel. But as the computer interprets the information, a very different image begins to form. It soon becomes obvious that what is thought to be a ship is only another geological formation.
It looks like rocks, not the Titanic, is what it
Yes,
what it amounts
yes,
to.
right.
Once again, the Russian submarine makes an untimely appearance. Some members of the expedition speculate that the sub really has no interest in the Titanic at all, but is actually concerned about the newly created side-scan sonar. With its highly sensitive ability to detect objects on the ocean floor, the side scan could negate future military strategy by the Russians.
Norm, you've been at sea most of your life. You know how difficult it is to navigate out here in the North Atlantic. Do you think it's possible that we'll be able to find the Titanic?
I think it's possible if the ship went down where they said it went down, if we are where we think we are, and if the ship is in one piece. Now, at the speed that we're going, surveying this area, and the length of the ship, if we saw the whole ship in one piece, we'd only see it for 5 minutes. And that's an awful small shot. If the ship was broken up, we may not be able to recognize it. We may be on top of it, so we may not be able to recognize it.
All right. Where's the net? Where's the net? Where's the net? Come on. Where's the net? Don't let him get it. Oh, no. He got through. Get him again. Oh, no. Get him. Caught all of them. All right, here we go. Okay, keep it flat. Get him. Here we go. All right. Right on. Easy. Oh, there he is. Watch it. Watch the line. Watch the line. Look at that jump. All right. Get him in. Get him. Where's it? Blow your balls on, Joey. You got to clean him. You got to clean him. Oh, you got to clean him. Who's going to clean all these fish? All right.
I hope you like this dolphin that we cooked. This is original shuck sauce. This is my own recipe for dolphin with shuck sauce.
Shuck sauce, yes.
I'm so glad we got seconds on it.
What's your theory? Where do you think is the main area we should search?
Okay, Mike, I tried to approach the problem using a very elementary...
In reviewing the side-scan sonar data, Dr. Ellen Herron discovers what she considers to be an object of high probability. It has a size and shape that definitely warrants further investigation.
Carpathia and the survivors that was given by the Mount Temple early the next morning. Now, this fixes, the navigation fixes that were given by both the Titanic and the Mount Temple, you can assume, have at least a 5-mile radius of confidence. And what I did was I first drew circles with a 5-mile and then with an 8-mile radius around those two positions. Where they intersect ought to be the most probable area where the Titanic, where the survivors were sighted at the first dawn sighting the next morning.
So it's an area approximately, 10 miles long by 6 or 8 miles wide?
And that's correct.
Rich, will you give me port ahead 150 RPM, 150 RPM.
All right, this is Rich. You want to come ahead on the port engine 150, roger that.
Thank you. 3270.
Right at 270.
They won't have much of a shadow behind it because we're looking down nearly on top of it. It doesn't have a very abrupt start like I would expect something to have if it were really it. But it's a very big return, very big go, and it's coming in quite distinct from everything else.
How are they doing over there on the monitor? Let's check the...
You can hear it. Right there.
Man, there's something out there.
It really is. It's a nice big echo right there. You see it about 2/3 of the way across the
You
screen.
can't tell, though, if it's a geological formation or a ship or what.
No, we can't.
Except on the recorder, if it's nice and sharp, then it should be
That's
something.
right. As we finish the scan, as we get past it, if that signal dies out, everything else stays the same, then you'll be able to identify it as an isolated target.
23.3 north, 38.8 west, and heading right this way. I don't know, Chucky. We got some small problems. Got a hurricane heading this way and a gale heading this way. I don't know what's going to hit us first. That really sounds good, doesn't it? Charming, just charming.
Generally a southward flow for these subsidiary canyons. But in the center of the area and in one of the very high probability areas for the actual Titanic location, there was a feature that seemed to be more east-west trending than any other feature, and it just didn't seem to fit in with what we understood was the geology of the area.
Could something be blocking that? Would that cause that, or what would you suspect?
Well, that's what I wondered, and we went back. We also, from our first crossing of the feature with the deep toe system, had detected a reasonable shadow and some kind of a strong signal from this area. So we went back with the 2-second sweep, and finally with the 1-second sweep. We really gave this quite a bit of coverage, and each time we got a stronger shadow, and the amplitudes of the feature looked to be quite reasonable.
That's our little
For
banana.
a possible target, right. Chiquita banana.
Ellen, we've been through hundreds of square miles of side scan records, but we haven't seen an object like this where we really have a shadow. What do you think causes something like that?
The fish is over here, and the shadow starts here and ends here. The dimensions of this shadow are such that it requires a relief of about Titanic.
Yeah, this size seems to be the right size for a Titanic and width.
Well, this would be the length of the Titanic, and then the height, whether it's the beam or the keel to deck, would create a shadow of about this order of magnitude.
Ellen, then what you're saying is if we know the height of the fish and measuring the length of the shadow, then you can figure out the height of the object that makes that particular shadow.
That's right. It's just simple elementary geometry.
Yeah.
And in this case, the shadow that we saw is of the right length to reflect an object that has a relief on that would be the height or the beam of the Titanic.
One is a gale center coming north of us that we've been experiencing for the last couple of days. 2 systems. This is the 3rd one in about a week. Unfortunately, this is going to pass about 120 miles closer than the last 2.
Thought we were supposed to have good weather today.
We should have had a break today. Yeah. This gale center is...
What's the barometer doing?
She's dropping now, so it's getting closer.
Yeah. What good news have you got?
The hurricane's not here yet. That's the good news.
Hurricane?
Hurricane, yes, sir.
Hurricane.
Unfortunately, Hurricane Bonnie is located down here, and she's heading north-northwest to pass close to us. It will be here in this area about 2.5 days.
2.5 days, huh?
Yeah.
Bill, we're in big trouble.
Well, what's the effect of this linking up with this weather pattern over here? What's it going to do to us as from now?
What's happening now, the hurricane has absolutely no effect on us whatsoever.
Yeah.
The gale coming north of us will leave us in the wake of the gale about 48 hours of nasty weather, at which time the hurricane will pick up where he left off. And I can see a week.
So we're whacked out here for a week.
I'd say so, yeah.
I gotta get the camera package in. Tell Spees right away to get the damn side scan up, and let's get the camera down, see what we got. We looked at it before, we had 100 millivolts.
Right.
No, we had 100 millivolts, that's not true. We had, Jim, what were the numbers?
I think there were like 20 to 50 millivolts coming into this thing.
That's right.
And that's what we could see here, because it's full gain on this thing. We were able to get, a division or two.
Right. Just low signal level.
Very low signal level. It appears that we have something operational by the sound of it.
Yeah.
But the signal is a factor of 100 or 500 lower than it was the last time we played this game.
Something was leaking in the bottom. I think all of a sudden you hear a snap and a crackle and nothing.
Yeah, everything's behaving very well.
Well, it's usable like this. It's just a little mysterious. So if we pass over some metal, it'll still register, or what? I don't think we've gotten to that stage yet. But we'll have a computer program in 45 minutes that'll plot the thing, and then we'll be able to see. Okay.
That's effectively right. We'll be able to see if the magnetic field varies in a nice orderly manner when we start to lower the magnetometer towards the bottom.
The jerry-rigged magnetometer is placed in a silver pressurized container. To give the lightweight device enough stability, it's encased in a large metal weight appropriately dubbed the Yellow Pig. Hopefully this added bulk will allow the makeshift instrument to safely ride out the savage currents below.
Now, let the train go. Yep. Let it stop rolling for a minute there. Down on the main. Up on the tip. Level right there. Hold it. Okay.
search goes on, while the exhausted crew maintains a desperate night vigil. With the camera sled unable to descend, the very last hope for discovery lies with the makeshift magnetometer. Suddenly, the magnetometer signal fails. The final chance for success is gone. Outside, the powerful sea continues to batter the ship unmercifully. Once again, triumphant over the technological presumptions of mere mortal man. The Titanic, an engineering masterpiece. In her time, she represented the sum of man's technological genius. Now, at the bottom of a dark, forbidding sea, she is tenaciously protected by the very force that put her there. Engulfed in a haze of mystery and speculation, she resides seductively just beyond our grasp. But that's soon to change. Let's examine the accomplishments of Titanic 1980. When cross-checking detailed contour charts, Dr. Ellen Herron discovered an unusual target. That target was located here. The revolutionary side-scan sonar developed by James Corsalis revealed a target with the same basic proportions as the Titanic, also at this location. Now, according to established fact, the Titanic struck an iceberg here and drifted to the northeast, putting the historical site of the sinking here, the very same spot. So all the evidence seems to point to this specific area. It's the precise location of the unsinkable Titanic. Well, armed this time with the certainty of exact coordinates and the versatile capabilities of the deep submersible Illuminaut, the expedition team will return to the North Atlantic in the summer of 1981. And there the intrepid adventurers will descend to the ocean floor and finally touch the incredible Titanic.
It was a cold, dark night in history, a great ship riding an icy sea, threading her way to New York town. Struck a berg that took her down. Way down beneath the cold Atlantic, way on down. All the passengers in panic. The unsinkable ship Titanic took a voyage to history. She took 1,500 helpless people down beneath the sea.
It was just before midnight, steaming westward as she called, her big foghorn a wailing, her steel hull double wall.
Iceberg ahead!
Cried the frightened watchman. Thank you. That's all he said. 30 seconds later, all the people were awakened to the sound of metal ripping, the double hull breaking. The Titanic, she was shaken. The water she was taking said she had to be forsaken. Sinking, no mistake.
Taking 1,500 helpless people down beneath the sea. We're gonna find the Titanic in her cold and lonely grave. Yes, we'll find the Titanic with the cowards and the brave. We've all been told the story of the tragedy and glory of that great ship Titanic. at the bottom of the sea.
Excellent side scan record for the first time with a brand new side scan sonar.
You can feel how scared they must have been as they heard the water pouring in. Find the lifeboat sitting down, not enough to go around. Way down beneath the cold Atlantic, way on down. All the passengers in panic. The unsinkable ship Titanic took a voyage to history. She took 1,500 helpless people down beneath the sea.